Hi there, my name is Dan, and I'm a senior RMM engineer at ProValTech. In this portion of our Agent Procedure series, I want to go over a brief description of what a variable is and how you can utilize different variable types in an agent procedure. Let's get into it. A variable is basically a bucket you can put something in so that you can later reference it in other parts of your script or code. Using variables allows us to modify or change the value of that variable whenever we need to. It also allows us to name a variable something clear and concise, which increases readability of your code. Think of a variable like a box that has a name that you put some stuff into. Simply refer to it by name later in your script, and you can get that stuff right back out. The GetVariable statement within an agent procedure does exactly what it says on the tin. It takes a value from somewhere and saves it to a variable that then you can use in the rest of your script. For example, the simple constant value variable that we see on line 2 allows you to take anything that you type into the details field and save it to whatever you type into the name field. You can see here in my example script that we're taking the data, this is a variable, which is a string, and saving it to a variable called constant variable. Now, whenever we call the constant variable, this will be what we're asking it to fill. Now, constant variables can be useful in some cases, but usually we want a more automated approach to filling these variable boxes. That's where other functions within the GetVariable statement come in. Let's review how to use this statement as a whole and some of the different variable types you can choose. Now, we will go over every single one in a later video, and you can also pause the video at any point if you want to look at the on-screen examples more closely. But for now, we're going to stick to a baseline of how to use the GetVariable function. So when setting up the GetVariable statement, the first thing that we're going to do is just start typing get capital V, and it'll pop up here. You can also select it from the left-hand side statement list, and that will put in a blank get variable. It'll always default to registry value. So the first thing that you want to do is choose what type of data that you're getting. You can see here every single type that's listed that I have listed above is listed in this drop-down list. We're going to choose constant value. The next field, and you can also edit these fields in the procedure properties pane on the right. The next field that we need to enter is the details field. Some variables need more detail in order to specify what you're trying to save to the variable. For example, in the constant value variable, we need to set the actual data that's going to be saved to the variable. In other cases, such as the file content variable, we need to set something like a path or a registry key. The details on the right-hand side will give you a basic overview of what you do and don't need details for. And you can also click on the I within the circle next to Get Variable, and it will give you a lot more details about the type. And again, we will be going over these in the next video. So after I have set my constant value, and then we set some data, the next thing that we want to do is give the variable a name. This is how you will be calling the variable in the rest of your script. So we want to call this, we're just going to call this data. So anytime we want to call this variable, we call the variable data, and we will get the data, some data. So that is the basics on how to set up the GetVariable function. The only other thing that I wanted to show you was how to use it. You can see here on line 23 that we are just using the function sendMessage, which basically pops up a little message box in front of the endpoint user and says some things. So we don't want it to say the same thing every time. We want that to be variable based on the circumstances. So instead of typing something in here that it would say every time, we can use a variable here. Now, one of the most important things to note is you'll notice that in the variable spot here, I have put hashtags on either side of the variable name. This is in an agent procedure how to share that variable. Anytime you call one of the variables you create in another function, it needs to be surrounded with hashtags or pound signs or whatever the kids are calling it nowadays. So in this particular function, we're sending a message that's using the variable user input. We can see on line 22 that we have a prompt when procedure is scheduled variable that is called user input. Basically, this means whenever someone schedules this procedure, they'll type in the prompt they want to appear. That will get saved to the user input variable, which will then be called by the send message function. So that's all that I wanted to go over in today's video. I do want to thank you for watching. We post a new video every week to share our knowledge on the RMM administration and other things. In my next video, we will go over each one of these variable types in greater detail. To learn more about what we do, visit provaltech.com. There will be a link in the video description below.